Hi everyone, it's Ellen, and today I'm going to give you a reading wrap up from the last couple of months. For those of you who may be new to my channel, I am Ellen. I am a mom of a 5, 7, and 9-year-old. I usually post videos about homeschool related activities, planning, and reading wrap-ups, so books we read and reviews, and some trip planning, or some trips that we take. Okay, my last reading wrap-up video was, I believe, in June, so I have a little bit of catching up to do, and I'll just talk about the books that we have been reading as part of our homeschool, but then also the books that I've read over the last few months. We moved from South Korea to Germany and also took a trip to Japan en route, and I didn't get quite as much reading done as I wanted to, but moving to Germany and basically having to refurnish our entire house because we sold everything when we moved to South Korea, that took up a majority of my time. But I put together my last shelf today. There are 2 more things that I would like to get from IKEA, one reading chair and some blinds for my windows. And so I think this week I will be completely done and I can relax a little bit. So first I'm going to share with you the books that we read over the last month as part of my homeschool, so with my children. We read through these 2 Zoe and Sassafras books. We read these together. This one is, which one is number 1? I can't remember. Oh, this one. Dragons and Marshmallows, and then Monsters and Mold. So we fell in love with these books, and I'm going to go to the library and try to find the next ones in the series. I'm not sure exactly how many there are, but we definitely love them. We just use these as read alouds, even though my kids could have read them on their own, but my 5-year-old cannot read these yet, so I thought these were super cute. So Zoe is a little budding scientist, and her mother is as well. Her mother is a scientist, and basically these are her thinking goggles, and they help her like think through things, think through problems, and so her mother can see magical animals, and so can she. And when she finds out that she can see them, her mother enlists her help and helps her solve the problem. So like for instance, this one, the dragon was having a little problem and was getting sick, so she helped cure the dragon. And then this one, this little monster had mold that kept growing on him, so she helped solve this problem. One of the main reasons I love this book, or this book series I should say, is because it has a person of color, a female scientist that is the main character in the book. So I always love having representation in books, so definitely recommend these books for anyone with young children. We finally completed the Harry Potter series, so we finished book 7, and then we had like a Harry Potter marathon and watched all 7 movies again. Well, not again, we watched the first 6, and then we watched the first 6 again, and then watched the 7th one, and that was fun sharing that with my kids. Like I've said before, I read I think 1 through 3 or 1 through 4 when I was in high school, but I never finished them. I started college and just got too busy, so I was glad to be able to cherish that and relive those memories in the book with them as we read through the first 3 and then finished out the series together. My oldest is a big Harry Potter fan. He was even Harry Potter on Halloween, so we enjoyed the series. We enjoyed the whole thing. Another part of our reading this month has been these books that we found at our library, and they're called Wonder Books. And they we found like picture books, and then just beginning reading books, and then also chapter books. So I think we've gone through about 10 chapter books, and then countless just regular picture books or easy reader books from the library. So basically it comes with like a charging cable and play here, so it has 2 options. You can either have the book read to you, or it can ask you questions throughout. And then so you just press play and then just read through the books just like that. And then so the same for all of them. And just to give you like a quick let's see if it turns on for me. Yep. Oh, this is in question mode. There we go.
It's time to read along. Open this wonder book to the title page.
So, and then it'll prompt you.
Each time you hear Let's begin.
These are just fun little books for the kids.
Welcome to the wonderful world of reading.
I'm just going to stop that. And then same thing for the chapter books. So the same idea. So my kids have really been loving them, especially when they are not reading on their own. I really love these books. These are great books to bring in the car for traveling, or like in the morning if they wake up a little bit early, then they have these to come to. So again, these are called Wonder Books. Okay, and for my personal reading over the last, July, August, September, October, so the last 4 months, I read 7 books. And I had 4 nonfiction books and 3 fiction books. So I'll start off with my fiction and then move on to the nonfiction. So the first book I read was The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. And this one is about a girl named Natasha. She's very scientific, very factual. She thinks that things go in a certain order and that is it. And she is Jamaican and her family is actually being deported. So she is trying to do whatever she can to stay in the country. And then the other main character in the story is Daniel, and he is Korean, and his family is very strict in terms of you will go to school, you will focus on your studies, you will be a doctor or a scientist or a lawyer, and this is what the path that we've laid out for you and you will follow it. But Daniel is actually a poet, he's a dreamer, he's an artist, he loves everything that is not the sciences. So basically, oh, and they're both, I think they're around 17 years old. So Natasha is trying to figure out a way to stay in America because she does not want to leave. She's lived in the United States for like the past 12 years of her life. This is basically what she knows. She does not want to go back to Jamaica. And, you know, as a teenager, basically not having grown up there, doesn't have the accent. She feels very uncomfortable doing that. So she's trying to figure out what she can do to stay and is going to try to meet with a lawyer. And on her way there, she ends up meeting Daniel. And they are complete opposites. We have the Jamaican, the South Korean, and the scientist and the poet. And so basically it's the story of how they kind of keep meeting up with each other and eventually falling in love. But I don't want to give away too much of the story. But basically I read the story and really fell in love with the style of writing that Nicola Yoon used in the book. She kind of flip-flopped between the two, telling the story from the perspective of each one. And I liked it so much I ended up picking up her other book, Everything. And this one is about a girl, and I cannot remember her name right now, but basically she suffers from a rare disease, and she's allergic to everything. She hasn't left the house in 15 years. Basically she's like one of those bubble wrapped girls where she can't do anything. She does have a nurse who is basically her attendant, and her mother is a doctor. So her mother will go off to work and then come back, but she stays in the house all the time. So she's lived in this house, she's seen neighbors come and go, and one day a moving van shows up and a teenage boy is there. And she is very intrigued and wants to know more about them. She learns looking through her window that the mom and dad fight often. There's some conflict in the house, and she ends up communicating with the boy, holding up a sign on the window. They text, email each other, and they end up falling in love. Again, I don't want to give away too much in this story, but it's very interesting. I think that there was a plot twist toward the end that was not my favorite. I felt like I saw it coming, and when it came, I was just a little bit disappointed. But if you've read that book, please let me know, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I did enjoy The Sun Is Also a Star a bit more than Everything. So definitely recommend to read both and see what your thoughts are, but read The Sun Is Also a Star first. And the last fiction book that I read over the last 4 months was Fahrenheit 451 by Brad Bradbury. And I actually read that book a few years ago, but just wanted to read it again. I listened to this one on Audible. It's basically a story where books are banned, and the firemen, instead of putting out fires, they start fires. So anywhere that there is reportedly any house that is reportedly having books, or meeting about books, trying to talk about books or anything like that, they will burn your house down. Hopefully you're in the book, but some people do manage to escape. And so basically the story is around one guy, and he is a fireman, but he starts talking to his neighbor's daughter, who is a teenager, and she's like questioning things, like asking him questions, but questioning the way the world is, and it gets him thinking like, you know, maybe she's onto something. Well, she ends up disappearing, and then that kind of like throws him for a loop, and is like, oh my goodness, like she was innocent, you know, what's going on? So he starts questioning things. So I recommend this book. I listened to this one on Audible, like I said, and I felt like the narrator who was reading it was a little bit intense for me, but I did enjoy it a second time around again. And I like dystopian type of books, so 1984, The Giver, like those are my top favorite books, and this one falls right along in line with it. So I do recommend this one as well. Okay, the next book I read, or my first nonfiction book that I read, was The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and this one is by John Maxwell. And I liked this book because it gave some really good information on being a leader, what kind of laws or what kind of rules to kind of live by to make your leadership better. Although I'm not in a position of any kind of employment where I am a leader, I just think that it's good to better yourself in preparation for that, maybe, or I like to just know things and learn about things. So I read this one just out of interest, and I enjoyed it. I like that not only did he give suggestions and like laws of leadership, but he also gave examples. So I'm a big person that learns from examples, so I thought he did a good job in that. And definitely, if you are in any kind of job or position where you are a leader of any kind or could move into leadership eventually, definitely read this book. I think it gives some good advice in there. Okay, the next book that I read, this one I listened to on Audible, was Never Split the Difference. And I chose this one because I wanted something that was a little bit military related, because we did a lot of driving in Japan, and listened to this one on Audible. And so it was something that my husband could also kind of relate to. So it's basically about the art of negotiation, and it works both in the work or in the home with your spouse or your children, or like any situation where you really need to negotiate. This one gave some good advice on that. So the author of this one was Chris Voss, and he was like, I think in the FBI, he was in the police force, and he did a lot of like high intense negotiations, something that I would never even be into, but it's just interesting learning about his techniques about negotiating. So I like that one. Okay, the next book that I read was I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit. I don't know how to say his last name, and I'm not going to butcher it, but I think it's something to the effect of Sethi. But this one was a good book about finances. I like to read books about finances every now and then, just to kind of see how we can improve our finances in any way. And a little bit of history here. We are Dave Ramsey fans, and we use the Dave Ramsey method, the baby steps, to pay off over $100,000 in debt. So, but Dave Ramsey takes you to, I feel like, getting out of debt, and then, you know, saving 15% of retirement, and then enjoying your life, and then that's it. But I also like to stay updated on different stocks or mutual funds, different ways to invest, different ways of automating your finances, and I feel like this I Will Teach You to Be Rich book had some good strategies on how to basically automate your finances, kind of set it and forget it type of thing. So I took notes on that. I didn't agree with everything in here. Like for instance, he mentions keeping a car loan and having stuff like that, which we are big no debt people. So besides a mortgage, we don't want to have any debt. So including a car loan, we just save up cash and then pay cash for it now. And so that part of the book I don't agree with, but I feel like he gave some really good advice on how to automate your finances, like just creating some kind of system where you don't have to really think about it too hard every month. I feel like he did a really good job on that and recommend the book in terms of that. And the last book that I read was Think and Grow Rich. And Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I read this as part of a book club in my local area. We have like a mastermind group basically, and this was the book they chose to read and discuss. And we've met, I think, about maybe 11 weeks or so, I think was the total amount, and just basically read it every week and do a little bit of homework, note taking on it, and then discuss it. How are we implementing these strategies into our life? And Think and Grow Rich, if you haven't read it or haven't heard about it, is basically exactly what the title is. So think and grow rich. So being persistent, being in a positive mindset, having those goals, focusing on those goals, and never giving up. And then the version that we are reading also it's an updated version, but it has a lot of examples of modern day people in there, interspersed in there as well. So it talks about how Steven Spielberg wanted to get into the film industry and had no connections basically, and did a Universal Studios tour and decided to just hang back in the tour, and created like a workspace for himself and would come in and out every day acting like he worked there, and then eventually talked to enough people and basically got a job there. And it also talks about other people like the Apple founder, FedEx, and Southwest Airlines. So it gives some really good examples about people who we know today who stayed persistent, stayed focused on their goal, and achieved them. So it's just one of those, have goals, set them, and work hard to them, never give up type of books. So those are the books that I've read over the last 4 months and that we've read in October. Have you read any of these books, or do any of them sound interesting and you want to read them? Let me know in the comments down below. And do you have any books that you recommend that I read in November? Let me know. I currently have The Water Dancer downloaded on my Kindle, so I plan on reading that, but I don't know what else I want to read. So if you have a suggestion, please let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.